It is my great pleasure to talk to Professor John Berteaux, who is the program chair of the conference. So I wanted to ask him more about the conference, the topic of the future of civilizations. So hi, John.
Hi.
Great to see you again.
Yeah, it's been, what did I say, a year since Bucharest and our conversation about the Byzantine Empire.
I remember,
and you
yes.
led me on a search, or you left me with a search to do.
Okay, I'm happy to hear.
Yeah, we spent a lot of time reading. Started with Mehmet and ended recently reading a brand new book by Moser on the Greek Revolution, which is actually the Ottomans, but it's kind of like the end, from beginning to end. So it was good. I enjoyed it.
Okay, I'm happy to hear. We're here at Monmouth University in New Jersey for the 51st conference of the International Society for the Comparative Study of Civilizations, and you are the program chair. So can you tell us a bit more about the conference, how you chose the program?
I'm the program chair, but the program itself is passed on. In other words, there was a decision made by the board, president of the organization, as to what the title of the program would be, Future of Civilization. And then we send out a request for abstracts. And we get a number of abstracts in, and from those we choose abstracts that fit the title and what we think what we think the conference is going to include. And so they're limited to about 20 minutes, the speakers, and so they're producing a 20-minute paper on a topic that relates, something that relates to this topic. What's interesting about it, though, is the fact that there isn't any contact between the individuals. I'm reading the abstracts, and we have a panel that reads them and approves them. And I'm always fascinated by how they tend to flow. It's almost as though the individuals are speaking to each other, even though the topics change from family therapy to the Crusades. We've had presentations that cover the gamut, but there's a sense in which there is an attachment. They still are talking about certain basic ideas.
What are your impressions so far? So we've had already 1.5 days of presentations.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
What do you think?
I think it's great. For one thing, it's interesting. It's fascinating to, today, for example, we just ended with a presentation on the Crusades. And as I just said to you, I just finished a year of thinking about that period of the Middle Ages and looking at a history of Christianity, and so a lot of what was said I've read about, and that's what makes it fascinating, because, I remember that. Yeah, I didn't think about it in that way. Those kinds of things were very good. And Peter Hecht, who presented the material, is actually the executive director of the organization. And so it was interesting to hear his research and what he's been thinking about, besides thinking about ISCSC.
It was an excellent presentation.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a bit more about your background?
I teach philosophy. I've just retired, so I'm emeritus professor of philosophy from California State University, Monterey Bay. I started in philosophy in the 70s and got into a PhD program after graduating from San Diego State University, and decided I didn't like it. I got bored and I quit. And then 20 years later, I returned to the University of California at San Diego to work on the PhD that I had started in the 70s. So in 1990, I came back and loved it. Had just couldn't, it was, I couldn't believe that I'd been given that opportunity. So I returned, and at that time, when I started in the 70s, I was involved in thinking about Greek philosophy, ancient Greek philosophy. When I came back, I was more interested in social and political philosophy, race, racism, gender, sexuality. And so at UCSD, which is where I got my PhD, I ended up lecturing in that area, and then went on to teach social philosophy at San Diego State, and after that went on to CSUMB doing the same thing, social and political philosophy, ethical theory. Yeah.
How long have you been a member of the society?
Maybe 5 years now, maybe 5 or 6 years now. It was one of those things. I saw a flyer for a conference they were holding in Northern California, and at the time I was teaching in Monterey Bay, and I decided that I had something that might fit the conference, so I wasn't going to have to produce something, and sent it in, and it was accepted. And so I have just about come to every meeting since then. This is like my 5th or 6th.
Wow.
So yeah, between here and Bucharest and the Jesuit Center in where was that? In Jesuit Center in San Jose, I think it was. So
takes you all over the world.
Yeah, yeah. It does.
Will you be giving?
Wait, speaking of that, yeah, all over the world. I forgot about Soju, China, which is the other place, and then Bucharest, and so we have been a number of places. Yeah. And you're going to ask, I'm sorry.
Will you be giving a presentation?
Yeah, what I did was I didn't put myself in the program, because I'm, as you're aware, as everybody is aware, with the airlines and everything that's going on today, I assumed that there would be somebody who couldn't make it, and I would stick myself in there. But it's worked out pretty well. Everything is moving along. So I am looking at coming up at the end if there's time.
And what will your subject be?
I'm looking at interpreting or trying to make sense of the global landscape. And really, since I've had the chance to look at all of the abstracts, I'm thinking about the question that I'm working with is, what do we do now with all of these various ways of thinking about civilization and the future of civilization? What does that require of us? And how might we resolve or think about civilizations and interpret a complex global landscape? So
I look very much forward. Thank you very much, John, for this quick chat.
Yes.
And
my pleasure.
Okay,
my
great.
pleasure.